Welcome back, folks. Here we are, week 9, second to last. We have one more to go after this. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's come and that's been coming, and what a fantastic group this has been. What a great ride it's been. We are coming to the end of our journey here. We will finish up tonight looking at connecting through play. Last week we kind of looked at the observe, listen, and describe skills. And this week we're going to look at kind of managing a play session. So if your kids are, do you guys remember what age we're looking at for the play sessions?
3 to 12.
Kind of 3 to 12, 3 to 11, 3 to 12. Somewhere along those lines, to do the kind of traditional play therapy sort of thing. So by the end of tonight, you will know how to do this, how this works with your kid, and have a pretty good idea of what it looks like, and you can actually give it a try. And we're also going to cover some things around limit setting tonight. Part of the filial play model, there is a limit setting component to the approach built into it to learn, okay, this is this very free-flowing, very creative kind of experience that we do with our kids. But what happens when they cross the line? What happens when they move into an area that we don't want them to move into? The first part of that's going to be really looking at how do we control the environment from the get-go? How do we, what toys do we bring? What things are we comfortable with the kids playing with or not in terms of doing this? How do we structure the environment? How do we structure the room? How do we structure all those sorts of things so we don't have to set limits until we absolutely need to? So controlling the environment's a big part of it. But then there's going to be times when our kiddos are really, really wily. They're into their active play. They're doing some really creative stuff. And then they kind of step over the line of what's okay and what's not okay with the play session. So we're going to look at how to do that within our play therapy sessions, our filial play therapy sessions with our kiddos. But then we're also going to take a little diversion into the realm of the real. So when it's not play therapy time, when it's kid reaching for the cookies in the cookie jar, or our teenagers wanting to stay out late past curfew, whatever it is, we're going to look at how do we set those limits in ways that preserve the attachment. Back to week 1. We want strong attachment narratives for our kids. We want to promote strong attachment. So setting limits is part of having a healthy attachment with our kids. If we tell them just go do whatever you want all the time, that doesn't feel so safe. Our kids want to know that there's a line and that there's a wall that they can press against, and what that looks like, and how do we set limits in ways that are reasonable, that it's understandable for our kids, that promotes attachment, but also is understanding of where their brains are as well. So we've got some things we'll look at in our diversion from play therapy into setting limits with our kids just in the natural setting, but also kind of our older kids, our 13s and ups, when it's not the play therapy stuff, when it's just kind of life in general. How do we set limits with those kiddos? So we're going to jump right into it tonight. Remember the basics, our listen, observe, and describe skills. Remember to stay present with your kids as much as possible. Just by show of hands, did anyone find themselves in a moment where they were paying really, really close attention to their kiddo this week? Anybody? Nice. Very good. So this is the kind of thing where it kind of ruins you in some ways from just normal life. You know, you just start to live and breathe this stuff. This is a worldview. This is kind of changing the way we see the world and we see our kids. You'll start hearing my voice, and you'll start hearing your own voice saying, hey, nose and toes, right? Follow your kids wherever they're going. Listen to what they have to say. Observe, describe, remain present in the moment. Remember those being with attitudes. I'm here, present, I see you, I hear you, I understand, and I care. So promoting those feelings for our kids when possible. So Sue Bratton is, she's one of the leading names in this whole play therapy thing. And I actually got to go hear her speak several months back. And these are just some thoughts that after I heard her talk about this, I thought I would just kind of share, just in terms of like why we do this play therapy thing between a parent and a child. This is not the play therapy with a therapist. This is parents and kids connecting. And she just had these thoughts that I thought were helpful. One is that play is healing. Being able to play through things. There's an actual like emotional, and even if you want to get down to it, almost like a brain kind of healing that happens when our kids are heard, when they're understood, when we're paying attention to them, and they're able to play through things that they may not have words for. Also that it's research-based. She really thumped on this. For a lot of years, people would think, oh, this play therapy stuff, this is kind of soft. You just play with the kids, and you have kind of warm fuzzies. But she's like, there's a growing body of research that shows that this is really effective. Effective at things like improving your relationship with your kids, behavior problems, and emotional problems. Those are the things that it's evidence-based for and it's normed for. They found that having these special play times with your kids, it actually improves their emotional and behavioral functioning. Play therapy is also trauma-informed. So if your kid has experienced a trauma, if it's your children within your birth family and they've experienced a trauma of one kind or another, these play therapy, these special organized play times with your kids, they have been shown to be effective at reducing some of the negative effects of trauma. If you're looking at doing like safe families or foster care, doing these specially scheduled play times with your kids, it's absolutely healing for a lot of those traumas that a lot of kind of traditional talk-based therapies can't even touch. There's something special about play that is really, really helpful for that. Also, play therapy, she said, is supported by neurobiology. So this is the upstairs, downstairs, left, right. When we're explaining what we're seeing happening when our kids are playing, that's helping their brains build that internal dialogue. It's helping them connect their thinking brain with their feeling brain. It's helping them move right and left a little bit more fluid and have this whole brain sort of experience. So it looks and feels like you're just playing with your kids, but you are building neurobiological building blocks that help their brains become stronger, help them become more functional. She's got a website that I sent out on the email this past week that if you're curious, if you want to know some of the body of research, it's there and you can go check it out. And it's growing all the time. So here we are, steps for successful playtime. So if you've got your 12 and unders, this is going to be really important right now. These are the steps to actually develop a playtime with your kid. Anyone remember how long we do these for?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? How often?
Once a week.
Once a week. Fantastic. So the first thing to do is review your skills. When you are ready to go into your play therapy session with your kiddo, you might just pull out your little notebook. You might pull out your notes. Remind yourself of these things. These are the core values. Do a little brush up. Do a little cram session before you play with your kid to remind yourself, one, to let the child lead, not for the rest of their lives, but just for the next 30 minutes. For the next 30 minutes, you can hang in there and let them lead. Remember, comments, not questions. Remember, keep the emphasis on the child. Questions takes the power away and puts it back on you. Comments, we're just commenting on everything that they're doing. It's promoting that they're seen, that they're heard, that they're understood. Tracking, this is where we use the comments. We're the commentator at that point. We say what we see happening, as much as possible and as much as they're okay with. If they tell you to back off, let them lead. But we're going to track and just give that dialogue of what we see happening. Reflect feeling. There's a list on page 46. That's for you guys to take a look at. That'd be a good page to go to before you try your first play therapy session with your kiddo. But reflect feeling. There's a whole list of phrases there that you can use. It looks like you feel really upset right now. That looks really frustrating. Wow, you did that all by yourself. You made your own choice here. You figured that out. That looked really hard, but you got through it. Look at that. You did that exactly how you wanted to do it. We're reflecting what we see. We're like a little mirror, and what comes out of our mouths is what we see happening on their little faces. Our body language, so our feet and our nose and our toes follow the kids. We want to promote that we are watching them, that we are present with them. We want to be soft. We want to be down on their level. We want everything about our body to promote, I see you and I'm with you right now. We also want to encourage effort. We want the kids to do a lot of this stuff on their own. This is, this effort thing is huge, because a lot of times, especially with our little ones, they get very used to getting frustrated and then saying, you do it, you fix it. We're going to give them an opportunity to try it on their own and to struggle through it. This builds some self-esteem. This builds some self-concept, some positive ideas about I persevered. I was frustrated, but I was able to get through this moment, and that idea of self-efficacy, this idea of you're more likely to do things you feel effective at. If you feel most effective at giving it to someone else to fix it, you're most likely going to do that. If you can work through a challenging situation on your own, even once, you're more likely to try it yourself the next time. So we want to promote that. We want to promote effort rather than the finished product as well. So, and we want to allow the child to accomplish whatever it is that they are trying to accomplish. So there's also an activity there on page 14 that we may actually come back to a little bit later, thinking about our activities for our older children and our teens, on activity 14 on page 46. Okay, so review your skills, then gather your tools. So you guys saw the kinds of toys that I brought. These are not break the bank kinds of toys. These, I think probably about 95% of these are things that I got at either St. Vincent's or Goodwill or places like that. A lot of times they'll sell them in little bags, little freezer bags, and it's like you get this whole thing of toys for like, a few bucks or something like that. But also yard sales are probably even cheaper than St. Benny's. If you can pick up stuff, one parent actually, she made a little budget and she went to Dollar Tree, and she found pretty much everything she needed for her little toy kit at Dollar Tree, which I thought was pretty cool. You're going to need to have a container for these if you're doing these. If you're going to do the actual scheduled playtimes with your kiddos, this is going to be something that you need to close up when you're done and bring out once a week. These are not the kids' toys that they play with that are in their toy box or in their room. These are something altogether different, altogether separate. This is like kind of creating a ritual for your kid. There's this healthy kind of family-connected ritual that you're doing with your kiddo, where you bring the box out and you let them know this is signaling in their brain. This is different. This is that time where we have those special toys, and they don't have to be anything fantastic. Just the nature of you setting them aside for that once a week play makes them sacred. It makes them really, really special. So you can use a bin like you could get from Jerry's, or a duffel bag, even a cardboard box. One parent that I work with, she just got a cardboard box, and that was their special playtime toys. And she'd put it up on top of the fridge when she was done, and they knew that that's what those were for. So you there is some technique to this. It's not just, hey, let's get down on the floor and play. It's let's make this really special. Let's build some ritual into it, build some routine into it, and take some time. Because don't you know, your kids see that you spent some time on this. That you are doing something out of the ordinary for their good, for their well-being. So that kind of promotes some positive attachment for your kiddos as well. There's a list of toys to include on page 47. If you guys want to pull that out real quick. Matter of fact, I'm going to go grab one real quick. Is there? So this is in the literature about the play therapy. They have things in there for a reason. They have a whole list of real life toys, things like baby dolls, doctor kits, a phone, animals, cars and trucks, kitchen tools. These are things to replicate real life stuff. You want to have enough people in there that you can build a family with them. You want to have enough people that they can kind of interact. Animals, things that they can kind of reenact real life scenarios for. So if they don't, if they're needing a mom in there to be the mom, you need to have a toy that could be a mom or a dad or whatever it is. Puppets or something you could use. So you want a whole section of real life toys within your kit. You also need a section of acting out or aggressive toys. Things like a rubber knife, rope, aggressive animals, toy soldiers, an inflatable bop bag to knock around and punch if you need to, masks, optional toy handcuffs with a key. Now, some of this stuff like dart guns, some families decide we don't play with guns. That's not something that we do, which is that's a fine thing. If you decide that you don't want that in your kit, that really is up to you. The reason that they put this in there is around some of the limit setting. You have to have stuff in there that you're comfortable with setting limits with. If you don't feel like you could set a limit with that, maybe don't put it in there. But if you can, and Dr. Landreth, when we went to his training, he says, if there's not a gun in there, how do kids ever learn that people are not for shooting? This is part of the limit setting, is if there's a gun in there and there's the little darts with the little suction darts that stick out. They can shoot the toys if they want to, but I'm not for shooting. And people are not for shooting. So there's some of the value of teaching our kids what we do with some of these things. But these aggressive toys, kids sometimes need to act out some of the aggression, some of the anger, some of the frustration that they feel. And think about this. Every toy that you put in there is like a word or a concept for a kid to express. If they need to express anger, if they need to express fear, if they need to express frustration, panic, whatever it is, they need to have the toys to be able to play through these things. Then some toys for creative and emotional expression. Play-Doh and a cookie sheet. That's around limit setting also. I'll get to that in a little while. But crayons, paper, scissors, an egg carton, and a plastic cup. Those are super important. I brought my plastic cup here to show you guys. So you can get a whole sleeve of them. For every playtime that you have with your kids, you need to have something crushable in your box. And if they do a lot of crushing, you may want to make it really cheap. So you can put a new one in each time. Or egg cartons, like those water bottles that are empty are great because they're really, really noisy. Soft foam balls, balloons, art supplies, building blocks, all these sorts of things to kind of to express themselves creatively. So there's your list of toys to put in there. So if, it doesn't have to be everything on the list, but at least enough of those things to give the kids a pretty wide palette to be able to use. Yes?
You might get to this, but for your example with the dart gun.
Mm-hmm.
So for 30 minutes, you kind of let them play, even if they are shooting at people. At what point do you put your limitations in there?
Very good question, and we will definitely get to that. We'll get there.
Okay.
And if I don't answer, make sure I answer it later.
Okay.
Crushable, yes. That'll be answered in the limit setting also. Yes. You guys are ready to get to limit setting, aren't you? I've been waiting for 9 weeks to hear about setting limits with our kids. Here we are. Hang in there. I'm going to set a limit right now. I can tell that you really want to get there, and we will definitely get there. But right now is for looking at setting a time and day. In a little bit, we'll get to setting limits for sure.
Before we get some gold stuff.
Yes. So review your skills, gather your tools, have something ready, and then the next thing is make a plan, set a day and a time. You guys had some really good thoughts on this last time. For some kids, it needs to be really natural and fluid, of like this just becomes part of the rhythms of life and we get to that point. For other kids, they do want it a little bit more concrete. They want to know. They might want to see it on the calendar. They might want to see it in your phone. But for other kids, just knowing, oh, this is that day. This is that day where we do that special thing. And this is definitely like for your special playtimes with your younger children, but even for the 12 and ups, thinking about setting some rituals in your family. Maybe you can't have family dinners every night of the week, but maybe you can do one, right? Maybe you can't do, activities all throughout the week, but if you set, a special night of the week for certain things, that can really be helpful for the kiddo, building in that sense of predictability and expectancy. We've started in our household doing family game night once a week, which is really fun. Our kids ask us about, what are we going to do for family game night this week? And just kind of building in some of that. So yeah, what are you thinking?
Would you suggest each parent getting their own separate box?
Oh.
Or how do you do it when you have multiple kids?
Good question. You might do that for each kid. You might have their own. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with that. If you needed to share, that would probably be okay also. I would say probably tailor it to what you think would work best with your kiddo. The main thing is, though, I'm glad you brought that up. It's one-on-one with each kid. I've got my special play time with you at this time on this day, and with you on this time and this day. And that's an interesting thought.
Because I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I'm one-on-one with each of my kids at different times, but my husband isn't. So I wonder if this would be more of his thing with the kids.
Sure.
I don't know.
That could be really cool. Have a special playtime with Dad. Yeah, nice. But that it is predictable, and it's 30 minutes, and you might build up to the 30 minutes too. Don't overextend yourself. It sounds so easy until you get down and start doing it, and boy, you feel a little wiped out afterwards. It's a lot of fun, but we're used to our attention kind of being everywhere all the time. This text, this alert, this email, this phone call, this whatever, and so setting all that aside, it's almost a mindful practice just for us as parents, learning to be mindful and be in that moment with our kiddos. So build up to it if you need to. But it's also, this builds trust and predictability. So thinking about even keeping your promise to your kid, keeping your play date with your kid, builds that sense of trust. Of mom said that they would be there, dad said they would be there, and there they are. It may not even be that they're saying it, it's just the expectation of Wednesday nights, this is special playtime with dad, and there dad is. And he's able to do that. So it builds that sense of the bids for attention, back to like second or third week of class, where the kids will have these needs, and that when we recognize that need and we are there for them, that builds trust. It also helps promote some executive skills, some planning, some thinking ahead with our kiddos, that they say, wow, we just had our special playtime now. It's going to be a week until the next one. It's going to be this many days, and they start to feel kind of what the rhythms of the week look like. So, step 4, here it is, remove all distractions. Turn off your phone. Get rid of it for half an hour. Whatever crisis is at the other end of that cell phone will definitely still be there at the end of that 30 minutes. It's not going anywhere.
If not, they'll just leave you messages.
Of course they will, and you can get back to them. But this is again back to our own disciplines with our kids in this, of really training our minds and training ourselves to set aside all those things, because our kids are worth it. They're worth that uninterrupted time. They need to know what that feels like. And think about this, even in terms of those values that you're giving to your kids. The generosity, back to one of our pillars, that's generous to devote 100% of yourself to another person. And don't you know, they're going to pick up on that. Oh, wow, this feels so good for me. And they're going to turn that to other people as well. And they will be children who become young men and women who become adults, who are able to devote their time generously to other people. What a value to be able to share in our world at this point. So remove the distractions. This is going to help them have that need for connection really, really met. So if you've got distractions in the home, turn them off. I'd say turn off all screens, turn off all phones, all devices, anything that could be. And invariably, when you set your time with your kid, something's going to come up. Someone's going to have this need that they have to have you listen to right now. Just set it aside. It'll be there. It'll be there when you're done. So remember your skills, your tools, set a date, remove distractions, and set the stage. We're going to invite our kids into the playtime. So there's a note on there, be careful not to communicate. They can do whatever they want. So back to the thing about the guns. If we say, okay, here's our special playtime, you can do whatever you want. We don't want to have to eat our words when they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So,
especially when
we
say you can do whatever you want. But you said.
Right, they'll call you on it. So be careful with your words. This is our special playtime for the next 30 minutes. You get to make a lot of choices. You get to do a lot of the things that you would like to do. This is your time to get to make choices for the next half hour. This is our special playtime. We have 30 minutes to do a lot of things you would like to do. They can't do everything, but they can do a lot of things that they would like to do. So setting the stage, it's your time, your choices. You get to steer where this goes, and you get to do a lot of really cool stuff. Not everything, but a lot of things. Here we go. Setting limits. Be intentional with how you set the environment. Whether it's your play kit with your little ones, or even if it's the activity with your older kids. Think ahead, use some executive skills. What might happen if I put this in my toy kit? What might happen if we say we're going to do a big giant painting activity? Are you ready for a mess? Be ready for whatever it is that you set the stage for. And with the toys, kind of be mindful and conscious of what you are comfortable with your kids kind of playing out. So there will be a moment where the kids will push the limits. And therapeutically, you can step in as the adult and set the limits with our kiddos. The model that Dr. Lander teaches in the filial play is called the ACT model, or ACT. What we're going to do is first, in the spirit of the play therapy, what we're going to do is we're going to acknowledge what we see happening. If we see a kid that's pushing the limits, we're going to recognize it. I see you would like to do whatever it is. We acknowledge that this is what they would like to do. I acknowledge you want to do this. Then, and only then, after we've acknowledged their intent, we're going to communicate the limit. So we don't ever communicate a limit without first acknowledging the child's intent. We're going to meet them where they are first, then we're going to communicate the limit. After we communicate the limit, we're going to target an alternative behavior, right? With the dart gun, right? They've got the dart gun in there, partially because we know they're going to push the limits with it. And when they put that dart in there and they get that grin, that wild grin on their face, and they point that dart gun at you, aha! I can see you would really like to shoot me with that dart gun. I can see by the look on your face, you are getting this silly look on your face, like this would be so much fun to shoot me with the dart gun. I mean, they're not meaning to hurt or scare you. They're playing, right? But still, within the spirit of play, there's some things that are going to be okay, and some things we're going to set limits with. So, I see you think it would be really fun and really funny maybe to shoot me with a dart gun, but I'm not for shooting. All right, there's our C. Communicate the limit. But if you would like, you can shoot these toys here. They're for shooting. They don't have feelings necessarily, and they're not going to get hurt by the little dart, and they can shoot those things if they like. We want to give them something positive that they can do with that intent. They want to have fun. They want to play. They want to shoot something. I'm not for shooting. Those things are, and we see what we can do there. So with the crushable stuff, another feeling that we might recognize is if our kids get really, really frustrated in the midst of play, and we know that look of they're like, okay, and they want to break the toy. How do we acknowledge the intent? What do we say? I can see that you would what? You'd really like to break that toy. And then we communicate our limit. But toys aren't for breaking, right? They're for playing with. So how do we target an alternative? But I really want to. You can break this. Oh boy, didn't that feel good? Hear how loud and it's like I need to get out some feelings, right? I'm having some big feelings in my moment. My parent has seen me. They see that I'm getting about to that point where I'm just feeling really, really frustrated, and they're expressing those being with attitudes. I can see you would really like to break that right now. The toys are not for breaking. If you really need to break something, that's what it's for. That's what that's in there for, is to be able to break that if we need to. And then we recycle this at the end of our playtime, and we throw another one in there for the next time, because if it's come up once, it'll probably come up again. So hang on just a second. The plastic cups are great. Plastic water bottles, egg cartons, sometimes even sheets of paper. And one kid that just loved shredding, and if that's what he needed to do to kind of get those big feelings out in the moment, he had something to do it with. So we want to have enough things in there. So that same thing with the Play-Doh and the plate. If you guys know that Play-Doh has like magnets that go to carpet, and so as soon as you get out the Play-Doh, where does it go? If you're really good, you can grind it in and get it really set in there. So we want to be careful. If Play-Doh is great for expressive, creative play, you can create anything that your imagination and your motor skills will allow you to create. So it's great that you can be able to create with it. However, we might need to set some limits. That's why we put in there like a cookie sheet or a plate. So there again, they've got the Play-Doh and they're about to stick it on the floor to smash it to make it like a pancake. Acknowledge the intent. I can see you would like to smash that onto the floor right now. You want to get that so thin like a pancake. Communicate the limit. The Play-Doh is for playing with on the plate. If you'd like to make that flat like a pancake, you can play with the Play-Doh on the plate there. So we're creating these experiences where we can set some limits with our kids. But don't do it until you have to. We don't want to jump into the session and say, okay, well, don't do this and don't do this. Don't shoot me with the gun. Don't smash the stuff on the plate. We just want to let it kind of flow naturally. Let them do what they're going to do. And when it comes to the point where we need to set some limits, we can do that using this approach. Acknowledge the intent. I can see you would like to do that, like to break the toy. Toys are not for breaking. They're for playing with. And if you feel like you need to break something, how about that plastic cup? So some reasons to set limits. We these are things we need to know. You ask, when do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? These are some good guidelines. They're not hard and fast, but like it's some basic stuff. I'm not for hurting. People are not for hurting, including themselves, right? I can see you're feeling upset. I can see you'd like to pull your hair. You're not for hurting. Your body's not for hurting. My body's not for hurting. People's bodies are not for hurting. Toys are for playing with, not for breaking. If we break this is logic that we're building in here with our kiddos. If we break our toys, what are we going to have left to play with? These are special. These are sacred. These are our special playtime toys. So we're going to get those feelings out that we need to. Play-Dohs for playing with on the plate. Even, some kids might decide that they're done. Keeping a good boundary of where your playtime happens is important. Some people will spread out like a big blanket, and that blanket is for special playtime. Or at one of the homes where I would do this, the mom had this really cool, like, it was almost like a corralled living room. There's like couches, and that became the boundaries. For some people, it's a room. This is the room where we do our special playtimes, or the kitchen table. The kitchen table is where we do our special playtimes. If they decide that they want to leave the area, that's a choice that they can make. But we still want to use the ACT model with this. Acknowledge the intent. It looks like you want to leave this area right now. Communicate the limit. This is our area for special playtime. If you would like to leave, you can do that, but our special playtime will be over for today. We need to give them an out. Sometimes this can be really like emotional for some kids. Sometimes they get really overwhelmed and they will let you know, I'm done. So we don't want to be so rigid and say, but there's still 20 minutes left on the clock. You better get yourself down here and finish our special play. No, just be with them in the moment. Let it happen as they will, and they'll let you know. But we're helping them, again, build that logic. If you choose to leave, our playtime will be over for today, and that's okay. We'll do it again next week. We'll have it here next week. Which kind of gets into some of the other things. When the kiddos push the limits. If they do push, first we use the ACT model to offer another choice. If it's stay here in the playtime or the dart gun, I'm not for shooting, these other things for. And a lot of times this is really going to work, especially when we lay it all out for them and we give them an alternative. They get to do the things that they want to do and need to do. But what happens if that fails? Anyone thinking that? Do it again. We're going to make it really methodical. This is how we do things. When limits are pushed, we will acknowledge, we will communicate the limit, and we'll target an alternative behavior. If they continue to push, we will do it again. What happens if that doesn't work? Do it again. We don't even start getting into alternatives to this, which is kind of giving choices, until we've tried this like 2 or 3 times. Sometimes it takes that repetitive nature of it for it really to kind of sink in for the kiddo. They may be so wrapped up into it that they don't hear it, they don't process it. Back to our lagging skills, they may have some language processing stuff. They may have some difficulty with understanding the logic or whatever it is in the moment. So we want to give it some repetition. Then after about the 3rd time or so, then we start talking about choices, right? If we've set our limits around leaving the special playtime area and we see that they're really ready to go, we start talking about choices. If you choose to leave this area, you are choosing for our special playtime to be over. And that's an okay choice for you to make. We're going to let them know that that's an okay choice for you to make, to leave if you need to leave. For some of the other things, if we've done I can see that you want to shoot me with the dart gun, and I'm not for shooting these. You can shoot these things. And we go through it once, twice, 3 times. Then we start talking about choices, right? If you continue to choose to shoot me with the dart gun, you're choosing for us to be done with this toy for now, right? Then whose choice is it? They're still in the lead. They're still making the choices, and they are choosing that this is not something we're going to play with. We've given them lots of chances, lots of opportunities, and what they're telling us is, this is too big of a thing for me to control myself right now. I need you. I need you to step in, and I need you to help me out with this, because I'm having too much difficulty using my self-control, my self-regulation skills right now, and I need someone to give me some structure. I need someone to step in and help me out with this. And you're making it very clear, if you choose to do this, you're choosing to be done. And they've made a choice. And you might say, this looks like this is not a toy we can continue to play with this time. We'll try it again next time. We want to give them opportunities. We don't want them to feel like they've failed or that they can't. We want to build that success of like, we'll give it another try. Maybe next week, their self-regulation skills will be a little higher. because they're practicing all the time. So here's just kind of a script to kind of keep in mind when you're setting limits with your kids in special playtime. If you choose to blank, then you are choosing blank. Always about them making the choice with this. This is something you can kind of generalize into other areas of life as well. When you don't want to have to be the heavy and the bad guy all the time, if we can give our kids some choices around some of the things that they're pushing limits around. If you're choosing to continue to use screen time after we've already set a limit and said no, you're choosing for this to not be an option for right now, or for us to step in and make some other things happen. So whatever it is, we're going to take our diversion into the world of the real with this. How does this work in real life? How does this work with teens? We're going to take just a couple of minute break. If you want to grab a cookie or some coffee, in here you can choose. You can choose what you'd like to do. Take a few minutes and we're going to... Okay, let's go ahead and rein it in, guys. A few people brought some really good questions up just during the break now. One is around things that we do or don't put in the play kit. Like your special, you mentioned special heirloom toy that you really don't want broken. Don't put that in the special play kit, right? I would even have this rule of thumb. I wouldn't put anything in there that you're not okay with it being broken. Because chances are, especially wherever the kid is, it might happen. So if it's something that has special, significant emotional value to you, and that's going to bring up big feelings to you, if you can't set a limit without going to, flip my lid of, I can see that you really want to break my very, very special toy from my childhood that means a whole lot to me. We don't want to put that on the kid in that moment, right? So this is why St. Vinny's stuff is awesome, because you can just go and pay 79 cents and get another one if it gets broken or lost. And even around the Play-Doh stuff, if it's an issue of your carpet is you don't even want to get to that point, just don't put it in. That's okay. And another question was brought up around if our kids are asking us to do things. I want you to do this. I want you to play with this. I want you to build this. They're still taking the lead with that, and so it's okay to engage, especially if they're asking. If they're inviting you into their world, that's pretty cool. That's a special moment. So don't feel like you have to. Well, Corey said that I'm not supposed to. It's okay. It's okay to engage in that moment, and the especially like with puppets. And with some of the theatrical stuff, or if they're inviting you in, sometimes they call it like the stage whisper, where you kind of whisper the stage directions of, okay, I've got this puppet. What am I supposed to do with the puppet again? So it's like so you're kind of breaking that third wall sort of thing, and you're saying, okay, I know you want me to do something with this, and I'm cueing you to give me some direction. Give me some direction of what do we do with this. So got a little bit ahead of myself. The last few steps with our play times is end your time well. Got so wrapped up, and I was ready to jump into setting limits too. I tell you, it's hard not to. End your time well. Give adequate warnings for your kiddos. Make sure that they know, especially if they're a kid who struggles with executive functioning or transitions, flexibility. We're moving from playtime, special playtime, into something else. Give them plenty of time to do that. Set a timer on your phones. Set a timer. Have something where you can see. If your kid's particularly anxious about this, you may want it to be something that you can see and they maybe can't see. Or if they're a kid who really is soothed by some of the visual cues, just cater it to your kid. It helps build some flexibility, how to change from this activity to the next, build some logic, consistency, sense of time awareness for our kiddos. There are a list of do's and don'ts in your workbooks there. This would be another thing that's good. I won't go into all of these right now, but this would be a good thing to review right before your special play time. Main things are around letting the kid lead, set the stage, encourage effort. Don't criticize, correct, preach. Don't initiate new activities. Let the kids be the ones that are initiating, at least for that 30 minutes. They get to pick where things are going. We don't say as the parent, well, now we're going to go do this, or now we're going to go do this, or hey, what if we did this? Or some of our fix-it sort of stuff. Oh, they look sad. Let's wipe their tears away. We don't want them to feel sad. Let them feel sad. Let them be there in the moment. Let them lead with wherever they're going. So take a look at those. And this is super important also. When we're done with the special playtime, we've set the stage, we've got it all ready, we've gave them the warnings, and it's time to be done. Our transition is the kid goes on to do what they're going to do next, and the grown-up cleans up. This is something that is unique and special just to our special playtimes with our kids. If the house rules are, you clean up what you get out, for the rest of their lives and every other minute of the day, they follow that rule. Just for our special playtimes, the adults do the cleanup. And you can be very open and transparent about this. This is different than the rest of the day. This is where mom, this is where dad does the cleanup part. They're welcome to help if they would like. And you may even offer that. It's my job to clean up after our special playtimes once a week. If you'd like to help, you can. If you'd like to go on and do your next thing, you can as well. I remember that one of the kiddos that was just really very energetic, very kind of defiant sort of a kiddo in a lot of ways, a lot of just spirit. I remember when his mom did their first play session, he just cuddled right up into her and was helping her clean stuff up. I'd never seen this kid clean up anything in his house before, so it was really cool to see this moment where it was he felt connected. But the expectation is that we want them to play with as much of the toys as they would like to, without that fear of, if I get this out, I'm gonna have to put it away, or if I make a big mess, I'm gonna have to. We want to encourage that creative process for them. So let them do, and us cleaning up after them is going to help with that. So this also may limit how many toys you put in your special play kit, because if you don't want to clean up 360 toys, don't put 360 toys in the special play kit. Even they discourage things like Legos, tons of those, or puzzles, because the pieces can go everywhere. You just kind of keep it in mind that you're going to be cleaning this up when they're done. So just kind of put stuff in there that you're going to be okay with cleaning up afterwards. Okay, so setting limits in other settings using this model here. So same sort of process of acknowledge the intent, communicate the limit, target an alternative behavior. Thinking about this with our teenagers or any kiddos, if there's a limit that's being pushed in your household, they come to you and say, the big games happening this week, or homecoming, or whatever, and I really want to stay out with my friends. How late do you want to stay out? Yeah, midnight, 1, 2. This is where your values come in, and you say, what am I okay with here? What are the kind of house rules? What are the limits that I need to set? And when they start to push against that, this is where you start acknowledge the intent. What do they want? They want to hang with their friends, right? They want to connect. I can see you would really like to spend some good time with your friends. It's a really special. This is out of the ordinary. It's homecoming. It's whatever, and you really want to connect with your friends. Then communicate your limit. Our house rule is home by 10:30. This is what you want. Here's our limit. Then how do we target an alternative behavior there? What might we do? What might we say? Any thoughts? This is what you want, is to connect with your friends. Our house rule is this. How about you have your friends come over and you guys can stay up as late as you want? It's going to be different for every house, different for every rule, but it's the same sort of idea of acknowledging what it is that they're pushing against, communicating your limits, and then targeting an alternative behavior. Does that make sense? Easier said than done sometimes, but it's just like the collaborative problem-solving stuff. Having a game plan, having a go-to, instead of jumping right into a lecture or into a power struggle, if you know, okay, this is, I want to see, I'm going to see what they're asking for. I'm going to dig down deep into it. And it's okay for me to set some limits here, right? That's not even like the plan A thing. This is just you having a value as a parent and saying what needs to happen. And targeting something for them to do. They're going to feel understood and felt and known through that. You might throw a plan B in there with them and dig even a little bit deeper to find out some other things you could do with them. But it's just a way to set some limits with your kiddos. How about no? Does anyone find themselves saying no a lot? It's easy to jump to, and so there's a lady named Barbara Colaroso who has some really interesting, neat ideas around what to do instead of saying no. And so there's kind of, she throws a lot of stuff in there. So there's going to be some really neat kind of technique-y stuff to do, but also some ideas about how we come across as parents when we're saying no. Saying no is important. Like I said, it's part of having a healthy attachment is that you have to know enough about your kid's world and their abilities and what's going on with them to sometimes say no. But there's some creative ways to do that. So we're going to watch a little video here that kind of explains some of those. So be looking for alternatives to no, and some things around how our style as parents here.
The word that kind of comes spewing out of my mouth without question is no.
Yeah.
Don't. Bad in Barbara Colaroso's...
we just say it too often.
Yeah.
We say, Mom, can I have a cookie? No, it'll spoil your supper. Dad, can I go over to Jamie's house? No. Mom, can I have the car keys? No. Dad, can I stay out all night? No. They don't take us seriously.
What part of no don't you understand?
That's a brick wall, yes. A good brick wall response. They never take us seriously on the big one when we really need to say no. If we keep changing our minds on the little ones or say no all the time. One little boy, somebody said, what's your name? He said, No Johnny. I mean, he really believed his name was No Johnny. But there are 3 alternatives you can use instead of saying no right away. So if you need to say no, you can say it, mean it, and follow through with it. The first alternative, Mom, can I have a cookie? Yes, later. So you invite a yes and a later. It's hard to fight a yes later. But that little 5-year-old says, but I'm so hungry. Okay, have a cookie. It's already later at least 3 seconds. But most importantly, you didn't change a no to a yes. It was a yes all along.
Right.
And don't say and make sure you eat your supper, because what are you going to do if they don't? Get the cookie back? I mean, the threats we make. Second alternative, Dad, can I go over to Jamie's? Give me a minute. There is nothing wrong as a parent to ask for a moment to develop your own plan. And I've always said to my kids, you need an answer right now, it's no. If you can wait a little bit, maybe. And they're more willing to wait a little bit.
I try sometimes, we'll see, and they go, woo-hoo, that means yes.
Yeah.
They know that if it's not no, it's yes.
There's a chance. There's a good chance.
That arbitrary rules, grounding, for example. Yeah. You just see this as
Can I give you this third alternative so they don't wonder what it
absolutely.
is?
Go right ahead.
The third alternative is really the one which we can get into grounding with, too. It's the one I use with adolescents. Mom, can I have the car keys? Convince me. Huh? Why should I spend all my energy at my age trying to convince my adolescent she can't have the car keys? Let her expend all her youthful energy convincing me why she should. But Mom, my friends, not convinced. Mom, you let Maria, not convinced. You don't give me the car keys, you got to take all of us to play practice. I'm convinced. And then when your 16-year-old says, can I stay out all night? The good line's no. They need limits and boundaries. I work with pregnant teens and runaways and juvenile delinquents. I've yet to meet one of them not begging somebody to say no. Give them limits and boundaries. Say you're important enough. And that's where the grounding comes in. Yes. I don't use grounding. My son, when he was in 7th grade, came home and said, Mom, what's grounding? My father's an electrician. I proceeded to explain to him what grounding meant. He said, no, my friend can't go out for 6 weeks. I said, oh, because he'd never heard that, because we don't do it. Again, it's punishment. It's something I'm doing to a kid. Discipline, on the other hand, invites a response from a kid. For instance, you say you need to come home in time for dinner. Kid comes home late. Brick wall parent doesn't start with grounding first. He says, okay, logical consequence, no supper. You don't eat till breakfast, which is punishment. And then the kid says, I got enough food in my room. Young man with that kind of lip, you're grounded for 6 weeks. So now you got him home for 6 weeks because he didn't show up in time for dinner. Has not solved his showing up on time for dinner. The jellyfish parent says, oh, honey, those noodles are terribly soggy now. Let me fix you some new ones. Parents from a brick wall family are going to say, fat chance, woman. But a backbone parent looks at a kid and says, you're late for dinner. If they're old enough to be late for dinner, they're old enough to eat it cold, heat it up, or fix something else and clean up your mess. I use the French term, répondez s'il vous plaît. Please respond. Consequences need to be 4 things. RSVP. Reasonable, simple, valuable, and practical. They should be more work for the kid than they are for you. And you say, okay, but what if he's still late the next day? Then I say to the kid, you have a problem, and I know you can handle it. Always believing the child can handle it. And I say, do you need a watch? Do you need some kind of reminder to get home on time? Because I don't think the kid's staying over at his friend saying, you know, I think I'm going to drive my mother batty. I think I'm going to be late for dinner. No, they're out having a great time. But do you need some kind of structure so that you can be on time? And you talk to the kid about, it's really important. It's the only meal we share together. It's got to make sense why you want them. But then what if they're still late? That's the one that parents say, yeah, but I got an ornery kid, still going to be late. Then I said to him, you know what? You've been late 3 times this week. And I really need you to be home on time for dinner because as a family, we need to have this only time together. So the next 2 days, when you come home from school, you need to stay home. Now, you can bring your friends over. This is not punishment. You can bring your friends over to play, but I would like you to be here for dinner. And during these 2 days, you have a job to do. I want you to be thinking about next Monday, when you get to go out to your friends again, how you're going to handle it, because I believe you can. Do you see the difference there, empowering a kid, saying, you know what, I believe you can do it, kid. We have to tighten up the limits and boundaries when you keep blowing it.
Interesting stuff, right? These are all posted on the website, so if you want to, and I'll actually share some more links with that. Yeah.
What was the RSV?
I've got it on here for you. So first, she mentioned these in passing, and these, I think, are good to kind of wrap our minds around. We're going to look at some other ideas around parenting styles next week, but this is just a framework for it. She mentioned 3 styles. One's the brick wall parent, which is that's kind of like my way or the highway, kind of plan A sort of there's a lot of rigidity, but it's structure. If you push against a brick wall, what's going to happen? Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So they know that there's limits, but it lacks flexibility. The jellyfish parent is the wishy-washy. No, I mean yes, I mean no, I mean it's the back and forth. And I want to make a distinction here because there's not really some people will say that sounds like Plan C, the shelf, but this is not a shelf it. This is you made my life so miserable that I'm just going to change my mind, which is really different than Plan C. Plan C is thoughtful. It's ahead of time. It's knowing your kids' limits and their abilities, and it's saying I'm going to get to this when it's a better time. Where the jellyfish is just saying, it's too hard. I'm done. Right? Really, really different there. But with that, there's a lot of connection, a lot of kids getting a lot of what they maybe want in the moment. But that doesn't necessarily build great attachment either, giving a kid what they want every time they want it. Because if it's not something good for them or healthy for them, they're going to learn that when I asked for this, my parents said yes, and I ended up getting hurt by this. Where were they to protect me, right? Where were they to step in when I needed them most? So jellyfish, that's kind of what the jellyfish looks like, is it's just kind of back and forth. And I love this idea of the backbone, because it's firm when it needs to be firm, but it's also flexible when it needs to be flexible. So there's some structure, and there's some rules, and there's some expectations that you communicate, but there's also some really nice flexibility that you have with your kids, which I think really fits well with kind of the Plan B idea. I'm going to let my expectations be known, but we're going to be flexible in how we get there, right? We're going to see how we're able to do that. So those are three I'm going to look at. Here's the RSVP in terms of setting limits with our kiddos. So it's reasonable. That's the don't ground them for 6 weeks unless you want to play warden for the next 6 weeks. Does it fit the situation? Are you able to follow through? Don't ever set a consequence for your kid that you don't feel 100% sure that you're going to be able to follow through with. It needs to be reasonable. Simple. It doesn't have to be super complex. A lot of times this will be like logical also. It really fits the situation, which is valuable and practical too. Is it valuable? Or is there something they're learning from this? Is there something that's helping them with life, with their expectations? And is it practical? Can I follow through? Can I really do this? Is it feasible? When you talked about discipline versus punishment, this goes back to like the first week when I talked about thinking about parenting as a form of like discipleship. If it's just consequences, if it's just punishment, we may like make our kids toe the line, but in terms of feeling connected and actually doing the things that we're hoping to do as parents, which are help our kids learn, help them grow, and build connection and relationship. We want them to be able to have both of those things. So when we're setting our limits with our kids, is it teachable? Is it helping them get better at something that they're not good at? Does it promote, I'm connected to you, I'm doing this because I care about you, and because I want things to get better for you? Or is it, I'm mad at you, and I want you to feel pain, or I want you to know how mad I am? Does it connect you with your child, or does it push them away? We're going to dig a little deeper into this next week. We're going to look at the trust-based relational interventions, and it's kind of pulling everything together in terms of all the attachment stuff, all of the neurobiology, a lot of our framework of parenting and how to build those connections with our kiddos. But it'll speak to this a little more as well. So consequences that are logical, consequences that are reasonable, things that help build connection rather than drive that apart. So even the you're grounded thing, I'm just going to take this away from you, this responsibility or this freedom. Is it teachable? Is it doable? I won't say don't ever ground your kids, but I would say think about that. What's the message that I'm sending here? Is this helping my kid get better at something they weren't good at in the first place? And is it communicating something that I'm hoping to really communicate rather than just I'm angry or frustrated? And the alternatives, those are like ninja parent moves, right? It's kind of cool. The yes later, so I'm going to take that and these are good things to keep in mind that they're quick. They're kind of witty a little bit. So think about when you have that urge to say no, could it be a yes later sort of moment for the kiddo? Can we go to the park? Yes later. I'm not saying yes right now. I'm saying sometime in the future we will, hopefully. The give me a minute one. I really like that one too, because that's kind of one of those good, like, humble parent sort of moments too. You know what? When our kids are asked stuff, we demand them to have an answer right away. It's hard sometimes. And to promote that even as a parent of like, wow, some questions are big enough that we want to take some time to think about it. I don't want to just give you the first thing that's coming off the top of my mind, because it's usually no way, fat chance, I'm not doing it. But, if we give it a minute, that's also helping our kids learn some of those executive skills, those prolonging gratification things around, I'm going to give this some time. And even if you have to know now, I got to say no, but if you give me a minute, I'm going to have a chance to kind of think about it. Or if you have a spouse or partner or someone you talk to about your kids, it might be, give me a minute, mom and dad or I are going to talk about this. So it's saying that we're a united front and we do talk about things, and we want to do that. Convince me. Do you guys like that one? That's kind of cool, because that's promoting a lot of brain stuff for your kids, a lot of the logic, a lot of the, even them digging into why they want the things that they want. That's a good skill to have. Instead of just, I want this, give it to me now. It's, I want this. Why do I want this? What's important to me? Some good communication skills for our kiddos to learn. All right. Any questions, thoughts about setting limits, about our special playtimes? Anything you'd like to discuss a little more? Mm-hmm.
Just one question for the special playtimes on the what not to do. It said not to praise the child.
Yes.
I'm curious about that.
It's encouragement versus praise. Good question. That's a real distinction there. Of it. It's you're such a good girl, such a good boy. That's praise kind of language, saying you're good when you do this, But then the alternative is you're bad when you do those. So it's like either I'm good or I'm bad. And encouragement of effort, encouragement of what they're doing. Wow. You mentioned that. Yeah. It's in encouraging the steps even versus the finished product. And it sounds almost kind of harsh, but even if they color a picture for you of a rainbow, what a pretty rainbow. You did it. You made a pretty picture. It's kind of praise sort of language, and it's saying this is valuable because my parents said it was valuable. So the next thing I'm gonna do 10 more rainbows because those are valuable. Versus, wow, look at all the colors you picked. But you spent so much time. You started that, and you chose for it to be exactly how you wanted it to be. That's the kind of the encouragement piece of this. And then it's like they can draw whatever they want at that point, because it's like they feel effective at making their own choices, at finishing something that they start, at doing something. And it is kind of still a value thing. You're saying these are valuable things, but it's the little broken down pieces rather than the big picture. So a good question. All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Yeah, we'll just kind of wrap. Yeah.
Can you email me some of this follow-up?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
What's your website?
trueinsightparent.com. So all the videos that we show on all these trainings, I have links to all of those, and they're week by week. So if you want to look at week 9 stuff, it'll say week 9, you go to it, and it'll have all the videos there. We're starting to get a few of the trainings up from the last series. So if there's some that you missed, I think we have weeks 1, 2, and 3 up there right now, and we'll get some more up there also. So yeah, you use that. That was the whole point of the website, was to have all of this out there for you to use, to review, to go back to as you need to. So to wrap up, first thing is just practice your skills. Usually I try to set aside some time where we can actually do some practice. You may be spared that tonight. I won't make you play with toys with each other again tonight. But do think about practicing this, and you get better at what you practice, sometimes whether you'd like to or not. So the more you practice, the easier it comes. Be realistic about your time. Especially if, I say 30 minutes once a week. If you can't handle 30 minutes yet, it's not a magic number. I mean, it's great, and that's what you'd like to build up to. I really wouldn't go beyond that with your special playtime, because you'll want to. You'll feel that urge, because it really does kind of feel good when you're grooving on it. But having that limit, even for yourself, it helps you with your own, representing your own executive functioning skills of this is what we said, this is what we're going to stay to. And it also builds that expectancy for the next time. Keep your playtime special. Your special play kits for your younger kiddos, make sure those are dedicated just to that time. But also think about stuff for your older kids. Like, how do you do this with your teenagers? If it's not a special play kit, is it, a box of board games or a closet of board games or, art activities, or really thinking about letting them take the lead? What are we doing today? This is our special time, you and me. What would you like to do with this time that we have for this week? And also just only set limits if needed. Let it be really free-flowing, but be ready to set your limits. You've got the tools now. Acknowledge the intent, communicate the limit, target an alternative behavior, give choices if you need to, but don't go to that unless you have to. And let it be a special time. Enjoy it. Enjoy those kids. Enjoy the time that you have with them. And I think you'll start to see when you start to kind of build this value into your families, I think you'll start noticing some little subtle differences in your kids. Those kind of want to be around you more sort of feelings, and those I feel a little safer to communicate certain things with you where I didn't before. So watch for those things too, and enjoy them. Just relish that when it happens. Just store them up in your heart, because they are very, very special moments. So all right, one more week left. We will wrap it all up next week with some trust-based interventions, and that'll be that. Have a wonderful week, folks.
Thank you.
If you would, do your feedback forms if you have a minute to do that. That would be great. And we'll see you next week.